And it's exciting, and I feel like I'm in a new church. So I'm a new person, aren't you? Amen. Some of you know, maybe most of you know, that in my 40-hour 9-to-5 life, I am a hospice chaplain, and I'm blessed to meet people every day who've been given a terminal diagnosis. Some of them are old and weary, and they're really ready for the next experience. I mean, they're just, please, I'm ready to go home. That's what a lot of people say to me. And then some are younger and weary, and then some are elderly and want to go out in a blaze of glory. Just one of my favorite people I talked to a couple weeks ago, she's in her late 80s, and she has been a missionary in her lifetime, gone to Alaska, met her husband in Alaska. She went on her own to Alaska to work with the native people there, and met her husband, got married, and then, went around the world some, ended up going to Peru, raising their children in Peru, and then going some other islands. I think the Canary Islands, Sandy, you've been there, right? So I went to see her a couple weeks ago just to check in on her, and she said that her family was going, her husband just passed. I said, how are you doing? She said, well, he was ready, and I'm ready, and we're all ready. And I said, so what's the next adventure for you? And she just said, guess. I said, are you going somewhere? She said, I am. I said, where are you going? Kenya. 88. She's going to go pray the word in Kenya with a group of people from her family. Just the kind of person that is so alive. You know it when you see it, don't you? You see somebody and you just think, it doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter if they're a little kid or if they're 88 or 95 or 101. Some people just carry that light right out in front of them, and in the darkest room, they light up the space. I just recently sat with a woman, another one I've known off and on for more than 4 years. And her family told me she was gone off service for a while because she'd stabilized and there was no need for her to be our patient. But her family called and said, she's kind of got the dwindles. That's a medical term. And they said that she's kind of forgetful and confused now, and her eyesight isn't very good, and that bothers her because she's always been an avid reader. So she was active in her church for a lot of years. She raised 4 children and just active in her community. She's been through a lot. And when I entered her room, I said, good afternoon. And I said my name. I'm Sherry. Do you remember me? And she said, no, sit down and help me remember. So I sat down and I said, remember when we did this project together? And it's something that we worked on for her family. Remember when you told me the story about that plant? Remember when, and then pretty soon she started nodding her head. She said, oh, that picture on my wall. I went to this museum in Washington, D.C. one summer, and I saw this painting at the I think it was the Museum of Women's Art. And it was a painting of a woman, and she was sitting in front of a window, and there was a tree out there and a lot of snow and a few birds. And this woman I know used to watch the birds out her window when she couldn't read so well anymore. Anyway, I got her a print of this little painting, and one for me. But I framed hers. Mine is still just a little print. Anyway, I gave it to her for her birthday, and she had it on her wall, and she said, didn't you give me that when you went to the museum? I said, yeah, I did. So it was like, oh, great. And then we started talking about the kids and the grandkids, because she remembered our connection. And she's still 96, She's just so gorgeous. And I sat in the chair where I sat for many visits with her. And so she said to me, I'm so glad you came. And as we prayed together and I was leaving, she said, thank you for helping me remember. She was so alive, at 96. It wasn't about her age at all, just alive. We make assumptions about the aging process, don't we? Sometimes I hear people say to elders or about elders, "She's so cute." Are you kidding me? That woman is 96, dude. That woman has been through all kinds of living, and she is not cute. She's a powerhouse. Are you with me about that? You know, or we call somebody, you know, oh, you're so sweet, Millie. I just love you. You know, it's like, stop that. Millie is your elder, you know, you respect her. And that's how I feel anyway. I'm kind of the Joan of Arc of the elders. Anyway, just recently, another story about an elder. A lawyer and a senior citizen were sitting next to each other on a long flight. And the lawyer was thinking that seniors are kind of an easy mark. And so he asked the senior if he'd like to play a fun game. The senior was kind of tired and he, you know, just wanted to take a nap and get rejuvenated. So he declined and said he was going to catch a few winks. And the lawyer persisted, kind of young. Saying that the game was a whole lot of fun, he said, "I'll ask you a question, and if you don't know the answer, you can pay me $5, and then you can ask me a question, and if I can't answer, I'll give you $500. The man woke up. So he agreed to play the game, and the lawyer asked the first question, "What's the distance from the earth to the moon?" The senior didn't say a word, reached in his pocket, pulled out a $5 bill, and just gave it to the lawyer and kind of dozed off for a minute. And now it was his turn to ask the question. And he asked, "What goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes down with 4? The lawyer opened up his laptop. He searched all the references he could find. He contacted all of his friends on the net, and nobody had an answer. He looked for an hour. Finally gave up. He woke the senior citizen up and handed him $500. The man pocketed the $500 and went right back to sleep. He was happy. The lawyer was just going nuts, like, what is the answer to this dumb question? So he woke the man up and he asked, "So what goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes down with 4? The man reached into his pocket and handed the lawyer $5. And went back to sleep. Now there's a sharp person who remembers something. He remembered what a good deal looks like, and he remembered how to have fun, right? He remembered how to be alive. So you remember that story the next time you're on an airplane. In the last 5 weeks, we've been looking at unity principles, and today we're looking, as Reverend Darlene said, at the last one of them. And these unity principles are our guidelines for living. They're pretty simple. You know, we can remember them, right? I mean, they're foundational statements. They're only 5. We know that in all great traditions in the world, there are guidelines. I mean, if you were a Buddhist, you would probably know that there are precepts and there are, the 8 Noble Truths and the 5, 8 Noble Truths, the 5 precepts. Oh, the Buddhists like lists. There are lots and lots of lists in Buddhism. If you were Jewish, you might be able to recite this verse from the book of Micah: to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. But the important principles that we're talking about today are not only that you know the right words, but that you understand the principles behind those words and that you put those words to use. In the Muslim faith, followers live by the 5 pillars of Islam. These are all rules for moral and ethical conduct. And to recap Unity's 5 teachings, you're going to remember all of these, I know. How many powers and presences are there? 1. Thank you. Where is God? Everywhere, that's right. And do you remember the law of mind action? Thoughts held in mind produce. So everything that happens in the manifest realm has its origin in thought, right? And how do we condition our minds? Through prayer. Okay, one more time. How do we condition our minds? Through prayer. That's right. Okay, and the final teaching is, how do we live? We live by walking our talk. We live by walking our talk.